Welcome back into another episode of George in the Jungle, presented by Remington Tavern, as always. Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. You can find them on Instagram at RemyTav Cincy. That's REMITAV Cincy with a Y, or follow them on Facebook. And with that, George, it's
Aaron, how?
an actual week. I'm good. It's an actual week where we have sports.
Yeah, things are picking
Plural.
up, baby. Things
Plural.
are picking up. And if I have any trouble speaking this hour or some words don't sound right, I kind of burned my tongue last night. It seems like it's okay, but I just took a little sip of bourbon, first one tonight, and it burned like you know what. So, yeah, I burned my tongue last night, not being very careful and being starving and taking something out of an air fryer, and such is life. But everything else is great, man.
Well, good. Outside of your tongue that you need to speak.
Unless you want to hear about my sprained MCL on my right knee, my upcoming back surgery. I can fill you full of medical issues if you want.
Oh my goodness. Well, like I said, camp is back in full swing. Camp Higher Ground is underway. Actually, it may be wrapping up. I believe it started at 7:00 tonight. But it's day 3 now of being at Camp Higher Ground. They moved in on Saturday. Sunday was closed to the media. Yesterday, Chad and Keegan were there, and then tonight it's their first night practice, and Chad and Keegan are there tonight to catch that action. So Chad will be joining us unless he makes a surprise appearance from his phone on the road or from a laptop at Higher Ground, which I don't expect. So.
Well, we'll
so what have you been able to take in from Higher Ground? Right. Yeah. Have you been able to take in any of the information from Higher Ground? Is there any questions that you've had answered? Are you left with more questions? Where are you at right now as you've taken in the Higher Ground information, the camp information in general? I guess.
Well, I still got a lot of questions, but it sounds like based on the eyeballs on the practices that the Sorsby kid looks like he's what they thought he was as a quarterback, and we saw a lot of that in the spring. But it sounds like maybe, right out of the gate, he's kind of been overall the most impressive of the lot, which does not shock me at all. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of questions all the way up to to that first game and who lines up where and, how this new defense shakes out. It's there's it's a whole new team for the most part. I mean, yeah, the whole offensive line is back, but outside of that, man, we're looking at a lot of new people, new positions on defense or different lineups with those positions. It's just going to be interesting to watch this month unfold. And again, I don't think we're going to know anything for sure until they line up for that first game.
Yeah, I think all eyes right now across Bearcat Nation are on young Brendan Sorsby as he looks to kind of get back to that same place he was at as the season wrapped up for Indiana last season. And he kind of set their fan base on fire. They were excited about a kid who they were obviously hoping would stick around. And I think we're all just as excited that he's here, especially after the way last season went with Emory Jones and the failed passing attack as it struggled the entire season.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say it made no plays. It didn't make nearly enough plays to help them win games. In fact, it was more of a hindrance than anything. And there were big plays. And I just read one of those articles about all the big plays that were left on the field last year where, it did seem like every game, at least once, there was a deep ball if it would have been on time or on the money. it would have made a
Thrown
difference.
it all.
Yeah, exactly. There should be an improvement there. I can't imagine it being any worse than it was last year. So I'm excited about that. If they got a kid who can complete the deep ball and they got some guys and in college football, guys pop open deep, man. You see that happen every game, and you've got to capitalize on those. And if you go back to when UC had, a legitimate quarterback like Desmond Ritter his last couple of years, he didn't miss those balls. And that made a huge difference in getting a lead, getting up on teams, jumping on teams. He didn't miss them. And, at that level, high Division I, playing at that level, you can't miss them because you only get so many of those chances. And it just felt like, last season we all saw it time after time after time. And so it's good to hear these early reports that maybe the deep ball is back for this team. And they won't have to just rely on that. That's just going to kind of be icing on the cake. But there was no icing at all last year when it came to the deep passes.
Yeah, and I think you actually have to be just as encouraged by not even just Brendan Sorsby, but also the guys behind him. Brady Lichtenberg, now in, I believe his fourth season, fourth year with Cincinnati, and he's just another year under his belt at this point, and I would imagine that he's also seeing improvement. But you also have Samaj Jones, and we've seen him connect with. I think I saw on the football team's Twitter handle, I saw a deep connect with Joe Royer from Samaj Jones, and he's been talked about for having a cannon of an arm. He's obviously very mobile, as he was known for in high school, but just that they're building depth. It seems like they're maybe not scrambling so much at that position as we have been over the course of the last, seems 2 seasons.
Yeah, and the key is, how much of that depth can you hold from year to year, because everybody's searching for quarterbacks. And with the transfer portal the way it is now, it's tough to hang on to those guys. But if they can, I mean, the freshman looked darn good in the spring game when he came out there, considering that kid had just walked on a college campus a couple months earlier and was out there. He had one bad throw that I know as soon as he unloaded it, he wanted it back. And it did get picked. That was, I mean, outside of that, he was pretty darn impressive in that spring game. Not perfect by any stretch, but when you base it on, here's a kid who just showed up in January and is just getting his feet wet and everything, knowing the offense. Hasn't been able to work on timing with these players like you want a quarterback to have time to do before they get in game situations and you rely on them to be the guy. I thought he did outstanding in that spring game. I was very encouraged by what I saw out of him. And, yeah, if they can keep these two around, it sounds like that position could be in some good hands here for a while. And again, you never know. You know how this is. They got 47 new players, and not all of them freshmen, a lot of them from that transfer portal because of all the turnover these days. So hopefully they can keep the top ones, but we'll see. But if I saw Emory Jones at practice last year and saw him at higher ground, and he kind of looked the part. That's what's crazy. He's a tall guy, big guy, looked strong, looked like he had a strong arm. You can't really tell in practice, but I thought when I saw him play, I'm like, man, this kid is really, really close to being really good. It just seemed like last year it was almost a situation where it was a massive confidence problem as the season wore on. I just felt like he probably heard some boos. He knew what was going on and knew he missed some throws. And it just seemed like a massive confidence problem with that dude. And I feel bad about that because it seems like he has the tools, but you also have to think if it didn't work out for the best at the 2 previous stops, some guys just can't make that final step to be and it's a hard position. It's an impossible position. So only so many can do it. So I feel bad for him that he had the season he had, but not everybody's blessed with that talent to be able to take that next step and be a good college quarterback. And it just didn't work out with him. But I feel that the level of athleticism we've seen out of these two so far, and there doesn't seem to be any signs of, when guys are lagging behind, and then you start hearing this stuff. Well, they're working on the playbook or working on that. That's a red flag, and I just haven't seen any or heard any red flags yet.
Well, you talk about that athleticism and just the improvement of the room overall. You're also talking about the wide receiver room and the tight end room, who've also seen major improvements and overhauls with guys like Tony Johnson, guys like Tyron Smith. You bring in almost an entirely new tight end room with Joe Royer and Joey Belgian coming back from his injury.
Yeah, because he couldn't play last year.
Right. Gavin Grover. Just this. Both these rooms are almost completely new.
Yeah.
And when you hear stats like there were only 2 guys who topped out of 22 mile an hour last year and 11 so far this season, everyone has seemingly collectively gotten faster, more athletic. It just seems like everything is moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I think those guys, identifying the people in the portal and the people to recruit out of high school did a really good job of, working on those weaknesses that this team had last year. Obviously, we're going to find out a heck of a lot more when they start, shooting live ammo, but it's definitely impressive to hear something like that. And backing up to those quarterbacks, and I don't want to leave Lichtenberg out of this conversation because who knows? There's still a competition. I tend to think Sorsby, based on what I've seen, will be the starter. But it's very encouraging to hear that UC has a kid like Lichtenberg. When I think it was Keegan's article with the quarterbacks coach about how involved he is in everything, and even after the quarterbacks meeting was over and they could go do whatever the heck they wanted, he would stick around for the offensive line meeting, things like that, where you can't put a price on that or a number on what that means to the team and what it shows to those other quarterbacks, because they're going to want to be doing the same thing. They're not going to want to be outworked. So it's very encouraging to hear little tidbits like that, especially out of a guy who, maybe hasn't gotten the run. And I felt like last year maybe he could have been used a little more given the struggles Emory had, but they did work him in. And then they were doing that, every other series or whatever. It was almost by committee for a little bit there. But for him to have that kind of attitude through all that and still not guaranteed, knowing that, they went out in the portal and got a guy, they went out and got a highly rated recruit out of high school to come in, and that he still carries himself that way. That's a special kid right there.
Yeah. On the other side of the ball, defensively, defense last year, we heard that defense looked really good against the receivers, and we were kind of excited about the defense. We expected the defense to be good. Defense was not good. And I want to go back to that stat where only 2 guys on the entire team over 22 miles an hour. Well, we saw defense was slow. Defense was slow all year, and it didn't get any better as the season drudged along. So this year, we have guys flying all over the field. It sounds like the safeties, especially in this new defense, are flying all over the field. It seems that quarterbacks are actually going to have safety help this year. But it seems like Tyson Veit's got the guys that he wants in place, and things are, again, moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and we'll have to see. I mean, last year, they did look, and I went to higher ground and saw what was going on. And when you're going against your own, we found out that the wide receivers weren't exactly great last year either, right? And so maybe the DBs did have a pretty good camp because they weren't covering what they were going to see week in and week out in the Big 12. And hopefully they've got those guys this year. Obviously, the coaching staff saw the deficiencies, and they made quite an effort. I mean, it was a valiant effort to go after all these guys and turn all that over in the offseason in that defensive backfield. And, you've got an old war horse back there helping coach those guys, and Kerry Combs, who, has been in the NFL and knows what it takes to succeed at that level. So these guys know talent. They know what they need. They know the skills they need. So I expect improvement. Everyone expects improvement, but you got to go out and do it. You got to go out there and perform on the field, and you can't be coughing up games like they did. And I, I was talking to somebody earlier about the Miami game this year being up at Oxford, and it just brings up that nightmare of a game. I'm still not over that. I'm sorry. That Miami game last year in overtime,
Well,
still
don't look now, George, but Miami has been projected as the favorite to win the MAC, and also has a bye the week before the game this year.
Yeah, I know. It's not going to be. And Miami's no joke. Look, they were no joke last year. That turned out to be a pretty good team. I wasn't expecting them to be that good, even after they beat UC, and it was that was a pretty good football team. And I know a lot of people like to cast stones at Chuck, but he's done an all right job up there. And I can't even imagine what they're up against, with this whole new era with NIL and stuff, and what they're up against to get kids that can play. But that staff's doing a good job of finding them. And I'm not surprised that they're expected to make noise in the MAC.
Well, I'm sure that whenever Keegan and Chad get their interviews today, they will have all of those posted on this YouTube channel. They'll be on bearcatjournal.com as well, in addition to the camp report and all of that. Anything that you're looking for, though, going forward to come out of camp?
Well, obviously the biggest thing is health, and that includes Corleone and what his status is going to be.
Well, defensive line's in shambles with Micah Coleman out as well. He's going to miss the whole season.
Right. He was expected to be some help there on that defensive line, and now he's gone. Someone's going to have to emerge. Do they have the talent on hand to make it happen? I don't know. And that's what they're going to have to find out there at higher ground. Right. And that, for all my bloviating about the defensive backs, and I've done enough of that since last year, really since the first game or third game last year. That's probably the biggest issue right now, is what's going to happen with that defensive line, because, we saw how massive some of these dudes are in the Big 12 on both sides of the ball on the line. You got to have big dudes in this conference and guys that can play. And there were games where you sat there, and I'm thinking like the Iowa State game, where it's just like it was a mismatch down there. It was a total mismatch. And that's a huge concern going into this season, and we'll see what they come up with out there.
It was announced yesterday that Cincinnati's going to be hosting Bowling Green next season. I'm assuming this is going to be taking the place of the Miami game. Does that move the needle for you at all?
You know what? It does and it doesn't. First of all, the game they're not going to be playing up there at Bowling Green, right?
No, it'll be here.
Yeah.
I think those days of Cincinnati going to any school
I know, but I drive, like I take trips to Michigan and wherever up north, and I drive by that stadium right off I-75. You can see it over there, right? And I'm like, God, one of these years, I'm going to come up for some midweek action to this stadium and just check it out. And I've been to the stadium, but I have not been there for a game. I've actually been geeky enough to pull off the interstate and go check it out and look at, one of the first time I did it, it was barely a glorified high school stadium. And it may not be much more than that now. But one of these days, I'm gonna go up there and check out some action just to do it, because I do dumb stuff like that. But does it move the needle for me? Kind of, because I still like these I still like playing these teams in the region, and these conferences have gotten so far away from it, and it drives me insane that you've got all these institutions around here with Division I college football teams, and a lot of these teams have to beg to play somebody from the area so the fans have a game to drive to. And so I'm excited for Bowling Green for that, because I know, as you probably do, Bowling Green alums. In fact, I got one that lives right next to me. Yeah, I got one right next door. So I still like those regional, be able to drive to games that I think is missing. And that's why, even like in basketball, I'm telling you, I know it works a little differently these days with how these buy games work, where they see, I mean, a steady diet of non-conference, and instead of playing New Jersey Institute of Technology or whoever, Jacksonville State or anything, like, give me a MAC team,
Yeah.
Or for God's sakes, give me an Eastern Kentucky, and they've done that in football, which is fine. Give me a team from around here where fans can drive to the game, and at least a little bit about the school, people who went there. So yeah, I'm perfectly fine with playing, and Ohio State plays those MAC schools in state. Now it's always at the shoe, and it's always a game that pays those programs a lot of money and kind of helps them make their budget. So I guess I know some people, you can't talk nicely about Ohio State in some circles, but I've always respected them for doing that, even though most of these teams they'll smash, but it's nice that they do that.
I agree. Just some other Cincinnati Bearcat news before we switch topics. Jordan Thompson and Team USA have officially advanced to the Olympic semifinals with a 3-set win over Poland today. It's exciting. Again, Jordan Thompson, she's been a big part of these Olympics, not for 2 straight Olympics.
Yeah, what a star, an absolute star in that sport. And the Bearcats got themselves a silver medal today, too.
I was going to bring that up as well. They did. They actually, the first time that the U.S. women have medaled at all in the hammer throw. And Annette Ichikunwoke?
You're close, yeah. Ichikunwoke.
Okay.
Ichikunwoke. She was in, and I'm trying to remember. So I did a story on her, and it may have been the last Olympics, where
it was Tokyo, where she DQ'd.
Yeah, well, was she part of that whole Nigerian thing?
Yes.
Okay. So her parents, and what a wonderful lady she is. I went over and did a story with her, and she's throwing with her coach. And gosh, I can't remember. Is it Coy Park down there off of Straight Street?
Can't answer that for you.
Yeah, it's a little, you wouldn't know unless you go there that this place is there. Believe me, I had to have a compass out finding this thing. And even then, I wasn't. It's at the end of this dead end street, and there's this house up there on the right, and there's all these trees. It's like, I don't know where the hell I'm going. And I follow this path at the end of the street, and there she is over there. Throwing the hammer with her coach, and all fired up because she's going to go to those games. And then I guess the whole team got wiped out because
Correct.
of something
they didn't file the paperwork correctly.
It was insane. I felt horrible for her. And then today, I didn't even know when the competition was, and I turn on the Olympics just in time to see her smiling and with this American flag. and I see
Serendipity.
silver medal. I'm like, my God, that's awesome. Because she is a sweet lady. One of the people she worked with, or a couple of them were there because they were doing like an in-house video thing on her,
Yeah.
being a member of this firm and going to the Olympics. And I talked to them and they love her. They couldn't say enough positive things about her and how she was in the workplace. And it just really, really did my heart well to see her get that medal. And boy, you talk about deserving it. I mean, how many people would have just said, screw this, I'm done after what happened?
Right. And
I would have.
Well,
like, what am I doing? What am I doing?
She switched allegiances, though. I mean, to go from Nigeria to the U.S., I mean, it's obviously.
Right. But
I rubbed her the wrong way. She does become the third Bearcat to win I was just going to say she becomes the third Bearcat to win an Olympic medal in track and field, joining Mary Weinberg in the gold 4x400 relay and David Payne, who won the silver in the 110-meter hurdles.
And that's all been within like the last 20 years, right? Thereabouts. When was Mary? Mary's going to kill me that I don't.
I don't have the years on this. I just had This came from the Bearcats official presser from the
I should remember what year it is. But God bless Mary. She's a great ambassador, and David as well. All great ambassadors for that program. And I think that's all within the past 20 years. Mary's going to kill me if I don't know the year. God, just nobody tell her.
Worth mentioning, though, Annette did have her season best 75.48 meters on her third attempt today, which was just shy of her career best 75.49. Just 0.01 meters was her career best that she recorded in 2021. So well done.
Yes, very well done. And that's called rising to the occasion.
Absolutely.
And that she did. God bless her. That was. And I saw something about that. Was like, wasn't that the U.S. first medal on that for quite a while?
Ever.
That's quite a while.
Yep.
Yeah. I saw all that was happening so fast because I had two grandkids like just steamrolling me when this was going on. And I'm trying to figure out my son's television to get the damn Olympics on. Imagine that. And I'm sitting there. I got these grandkids just steamrolling me, just doing whatever they want, throwing stuff at me, and then that pops up. So it was somewhat chaotic, but it was. I'm so glad that I at least saw some of her celebration, and I think anybody who knows her is over the moon that this moment happened for her, because my God, did she deserve it.
Switching gears completely. The Cincinnati Bengals are also camping. They have, I think they're day 10, day 11, something like that at this point.
I'll roll with that.
Almost 2 weeks.
Yep.
So they've certainly gotten some work done. I guess the biggest story coming out of the last week or so has been just how good Yoshi has been, as Joe Burrow has not hesitated to speak glowingly about Andrei Iosivich and his emergence in this camp. Obviously, that comes as Jamar Chase has yet to practice at all, but T. Higgins has been out there, and he's also been kind of raving about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, I think I read in a Paul Dehner article this morning that Joe has yet to throw an interception in 11-on-11s so far at this camp. So everything's coming up Bengals right now.
Yeah, and Yossi last year kind of got some attention in camp and in the preseason games, and he was looking like he belonged. And he was drafted out of Princeton, as we all know. And when you hear they draft a guy out of Princeton, you're probably not expecting a guy to come in and be able to make an impact right away like he did, and he kind of did in the preseason, and then he's made some plays in the regular season. He looks like a keeper. And he's studied all that Tyler Boyd tape in the offseason, thinking, hey, there's an opportunity for me because, the slot's going to be open. And it seems like he's fitting right in. And that's very exciting because, they still have some other options. And then, you add Higgins and Chase to the equation. Give me a
Jermaine
break.
Burton.
That's great. And Burton, the rookie, and that whole rookie class is looking pretty good in camp from all indications. They got a couple DBs that are flashing, a couple defensive linemen. It's very encouraging to hear that kind of stuff this early in camp. Doesn't mean these guys are going to, be longtime players for the Bengals, but they got a chance. And it just sounds like Cincinnati really did its homework in this draft, given these early returns on what they've seen. And back to the wide receivers. And, Joe Burrow looking good now and starting to cut it loose. They're right where you want it to be, in my estimation. I mean, I can't imagine Zach Taylor could have asked for any more than what he's seen so far in this camp, just based on everything the coaches are saying, the players are saying. Everything seems to be going quite well down there.
You want to talk about guys who are emerging in a situation, and I think that you have to mention Amarius Sims, as he's nothing short of exceeding all expectations at this point in time, to the point where Trent Brown's missed a lot of time. His first day of camp was, I believe, day 10, and that said, that's a lot of time for a guy to put a lot of stuff on tape, as these coaches are looking at who gives you the best opportunity to protect Joe Burrow. And when you haven't put the reps out there, you got to wonder, are you going to be the guy when somebody has been putting the reps up there well?
I'll tell you what, if he were to push Trent Brown out of a starting spot, I think the Bengals would take that all day, every day, right?
I agree.
I mean, that's a great problem to have. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the kid's impressive. And the coaches have been impressed with him. And from day one, they've been impressed with all the stuff even before camp, the workouts there. So that's going to be something to watch in this game coming up Saturday. There's going to be plenty to watch. That's why, like, these preseason games sometimes when your team's really set, and the Bengals are somewhat set, but there's still a lot of interesting stuff there. And I'm anxious to see these rookies, every one of them we've talked about, in their first taste of action against the Buccaneers, because they're going to get some playing time. You want to find out what you got out of these dudes. You already know what you got with the rest of them that have been around a while. So it's going to be fun to watch those guys get out there and do their thing. And I'll also be interested to see, just like, I don't know who they're going to start in this game. I really don't. I don't know what they'll do, how long, if they even play at all. A lot of them won't. I can't imagine Higgins and Chase see the field. I don't know if Joe will, but I guess he's probably going to want to. I don't know. What do you do?
I think you've got to follow your leader. Follow what Joe Burrow wants to do. If he wants to go out there for a couple drives, I think you let him go out there for a couple drives. It's his. I don't know. He wants to show everybody that he can do it, and
right.
He's missed so many camps, and we've seen what an offensive line not playing any snaps of any preseason games can look like at the beginning of a season. Everyone has to shake the rust off, and sometimes it takes 2-3 games for you to do that, and then you roll off some ridiculous amount of wins in a row. I don't want to see a team playing from behind the eight ball for 2, 3, 4 games because they just decided to rest everybody. I don't think that's what championship teams do.
And I think I would rather see them play earlier. And I know you want to get them going, but they're going to have a week off after that third game anyway. So it's not like you got to get them work at some point. I would rather get them work now. If you're worried about someone getting hurt or whatever, get them hurt now. So they got a month to get ready for the season.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, let them get some work in now. I don't know. I hope I see that. And like I said, I don't expect, some of those guys to play. They really don't need to. Maybe they'll get some snaps with Joe before the season starts in preseason games. But, I want to see Joe out there just a little bit, just to get him going again. And I don't think he's a guy you really have to worry about. But as you said, the last 2 years, and you see how they started the season. And, Joe was, he hasn't had a full training camp. This time he does. I feel like he'll probably want to take full advantage of it and get as much work as he feels he needs. And you've got to feed him if that's what he wants to do.
And when you start to see that other team start subbing in the second string guys, third string guys that are vying for positions, get him out of there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You don't want some rookie trying to make a name.
No.
Safety blitz and get a running head start, right?
I also saw this week where Lou Anarumo is excited to have Von Bell back, and Von Bell and Geno Stone have been making some waves.
Yep. That plan's coming together perfectly for the Bengals because the old plan didn't work so well. And having these two, Geno Stone's coming off a great season.
Career year for him.
Yeah. And maybe, maybe that's what his standard is now. I don't expect him to have that many interceptions, but obviously the guy knows what he's doing.
Sure.
I read a blurb yesterday, maybe about that he's getting so comfortable now with what they're doing. He actually realigned Von Bell on one of the plays. Can you imagine that?
But that's veteran presence, though, right? That's what you were missing last year at that position. And if you got the safeties doing that and basically being a middle linebacker on the field from behind the middle linebacker, then your corner to be in the right position as well. Everyone else falls into place. I love it. I love it too. When he said, he's like, yeah, there was one play. I felt comfortable enough that I told Vaughn to move a little bit because of the formation they were in, and it worked. And it's like that's totally what you want. And it's I'll say this, and I've said it before, they got a group of football players down there. They really do. And anyone that's played the game or knows someone who played the game or what, you got to love football to play that game and to go out there and beat your body up like that day after day, week after week. You got to love football, and they got a whole team of those guys. They've done their homework with their, procuring those free agents, the draft. They draft guys that love football. And look, I'm sure a lot of them have their fun, but it's not like the old days when, they had guys that were probably more interested going down to the nightclub after practice than worrying about practice. They got guys that are worried about practice, get in the building early, do their work. It's amazing to see when an old coot like me knows how things used to be. It's fun to see. And I can't really go through and think of, now there might be a couple I can think that I might question a little, but I'm not going to say it. But they've done their homework. I'll say that about the Bengals brass. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to start talking about actual games, even if it's preseason. I know everyone kind of poo-poos on the preseason games, but I'm excited to actually have real games to talk about with this team because I think this.
I'm glad they pared it down to 3 games because when it was 4, and when I was young, it was 6 preseason games.
That's insane.
Dave Lapham will talk about when he was a rookie and they played 6 preseason games, and it's like
insane.
They were only playing like 11 or something in college then, and it's like we played over a half a season and we haven't started the season. It's like, what is this? Think about that. That's how it was. And so
mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's good they pared it down to 3, and it's also good that I think some of these teams are starting to see more value in getting their starters some work in these games. It used to be where it was just like, I never knew why they even played that 4th preseason game. Most of the guys that started were not even going to be on the roster in a week.
They were cut. Yeah.
It was just cannon fodder out there to get the game in. So now you got 3 games. It's a tighter schedule. You got to get your starter some work. So I think it works out best for everybody. And it still works out well for the rookie trying to turn ahead. They still get 3 quarters of football if necessary to show the coaches they belong. And the coaches see them every day in practice. And I think 3's probably the sweet spot. I don't know if you want to pare it back to 2. And, they're talking about adding an 18th game, which, let's face it, if they're floating it, it's going to happen. When
Sure.
they talk about, adding 2 games, they added 2 games. Then it was another game. And I think they'll get to 18. I don't know if they'll pare back to 2 preseason games or not. They may not. I don't know, but they'll figure it out. But if they did, I wouldn't be too upset about that. And teams are doing more of these joint practices too, and that helps as well. You can get, you get tired of hitting the same old guy every day, and so that gives you something to get fired up for, and maybe able to judge a little better what these newcomers can do for you, and whether or not they belong at that level.
Well, switching gears once again. The Cincinnati Reds were victorious tonight, 8-2 over the hapless Miami Marlins. That was a dated reference. Yeah. They've now scored 18 runs in 2 games to the Marlins 5. Just destroying the Marlins right now, which is good. Ellie De La Cruz, however, is in a different realm against these Marlins. Back-to-back 4-hit games.
Insane.
You could argue if it weren't for all the errors on Ellie De La Cruz's defensive prowess, he may be having an MVP-type season in a year that the Reds desperately needed something like this. On the flip side of that, you also have Hunter Green, who's pitching out of his mind over the course of the last month or so. The actual stats are 33 innings, 10 hits, 9 walks, 40 strikeouts, 1 run.
That is ridiculous.
That's bananas.
And he wasn't pitcher of the month, by the way.
Yeah.
And
as he should have been. Absolutely should have been.
Well, Dylan Cease had that no-hitter, and that's what carried the day. And Dylan Cease had a hell of a month, too. And it's interesting now. So go back a month and a half. Would you have thought Hunter Green would be in the talk for the Cy Young? And he's probably not going to be able to get enough wins to do it. But if he keeps doing this, and he's got to wonder these last 2 nights, come on, guys, can you give me a couple of these runs?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to be thinking that. But this run he's on, I swear to God, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would love to go back and see a month like that out of a Reds pitcher.
Well, I was going to say, you've seen more Reds pitchers than most.
No, I mean, Jose Rio in 1990 just had some – I mean, that season was unbelievable.
Sure.
Unbelievable. That month is as good as anything I think I've seen. And Castillo had some good months, but I don't know if he had one like that. You just rattled off those numbers, and those are ridiculous.
That's video game numbers.
Yes, at the major league level, at the
Correct.
highest elite level with professional hitters, not just professional, major league hitters, and he's making them look silly. And
It's
you know,
not September garbage. It's not September garbage numbers. These are teams that are vying for playoff spots.
Yeah, it's remarkable, and what a metamorphosis. I mean, and there's been so many really good pitchers, Hall of Fame pitchers, that and I don't want to say struggled, but yeah, okay, maybe didn't show their best stuff for the first season, 2 seasons, where they're figuring stuff out, and maybe they don't quite have the command. Maybe they think they got to overthrow every pitch because of who they're pitching against. And then when they start figuring out, okay, maybe I can throw 90%, 85%, and spot the ball better. Hunter Green's spotting the ball like a madman right now. And he was talking about that, and then some other folks were, just how much. It was actually, I think it was Tyler Stevenson talking about how he is now able to spot these pitches so much better, the fastball mainly, and get ahead of guys. And then it's lights out, because you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, this could be a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and he throws that slider and you're buckled. It's incredible. And those two guys you just mentioned, Ellie and Hunter, give this team more promise. And they got to take advantage of this. These guys have got to go out this year. They do.
I'm glad you bring that up.
Don't, I'm telling you, they got to go get a big contract outfielder. They can't be just nibbling around the corners. Because, so what did Lodolo end up tonight? Like, he bounced back. He had a bad outing the last time, but he's been throwing pretty well. His last outing was putrid, and I was mad at him for that, but he was coming off that blister. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to quit having these ailments. But when he's
Lodolo 6 innings tonight, 2 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, 99 pitches.
That's, I mean, he's money. They've got a window here that they have to take advantage of. And I don't know what's going to be out there, but they got to get a thumper. Can you imagine if you put a guy like that in this lineup with Ellie doing what he's doing?
Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because you have guys who have this team is built on friendly contracts. If you aren't putting the guys to fill in the holes via free agency, via trade, via whatever you have to do, you're blowing your chance. This is you essentially have what the Astros did once upon a time when they made their World Series runs. They did it based on contracts like this, star power like this on those types of contracts. And if you aren't taking advantage of these types of contracts, you are never, ever going to have as golden an opportunity as you've given yourself between the draft and the moves that you've made.
I mean, to me, and this is probably dumb, I should have talked to my agent buddy about this. I don't know why I didn't. I should have. When do you make a move, and do you yet, on some kind of long-term thing with Ellie? Like, what do you do?
I think you have to start thinking about that.
You got to start.
The sooner you do it, the cheaper it's going to be long term.
Right. You've got to start thinking that
that's why you saw
eat up a couple of years.
Right. That's why you saw the deals for guys like
this arbitration kabuki dance every year with him. You want a happy Ellie De La Cruz who wants to be in Cincinnati, which is where he is right now, and is all, he's loving life. He's in a great mood. He loves everything that's going on, and you got to take advantage of that mindset. And I'm not saying, screw the kid over, because whatever contract he signs now, that's going to be torn up in about 3 years of restructure. And it should be. He's that good. I mean, I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know that it would necessarily have to be restructured. And I say that because we've seen guys like Juan Soto. We've seen guys like the kid who ran himself out of the league down in Tampa with the shit he had going on in the Caribbean and all that nonsense. The shortstop turned outfielder in San Diego. His name evades me. But you've seen these yes, Fernando Tatis. Thank you. But you've seen these long-term contracts that you set them up early in their arbitration
process. Contract was pretty damn big, and maybe that's what it would take. I'm sure it would take something.
But like Tatis and Ellie De La Cruz both signed these deals with these guys, the weird agent type guys down in the Caribbean who gave them loans that they have to give them X amount percentage of their contracts when they get them. So everybody's going to be hungry to get this contract, both the guys who financiered Ellie and Ellie himself, because he's not getting all of his money as things currently exist.
Right.
So everybody's going to be on board trying to get this done. The Reds are going to be on board. Ellie's going to be on board. His financiers are going to be on board. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win across the board. Everybody wins. Get this kid signed as soon as humanly possible. He's not only going to get better. He's not going to fall off. This isn't going to be a situation where he's seeing the ball right now apparently looks like a beach ball over the course of the last 2 days. And there was a stat I saw. Since 1901, George, Ellie De La Cruz is now the second player in Reds history to have 2 doubles and 2 home runs in a game. That happened yesterday. But the guy's out of his mind right now, just playing out of his mind.
I would wait till he has a slump to approach him with a contract, though.
Just figure it out yesterday.
I mean,
right.
And you go back and when Hunter Green got his contract, right? And I'm looking at that, I'm like, God, I don't know. I don't know if they signed the right guy to that.
We all thought that.
Guess what?
We all thought that.
That thing may be he is in the conversation for the Cy Young. And like I said, I don't think he'll end up with enough wins because they can't score him any damn runs when he's on the mound. But if you go down, and I saw an article, it may have been today, and he was in the top 5 of guys that would be in line as candidates for the Cy Young Award in the NL.
2024 NL pitching WAR leaders. This came today, earlier today, so before the games this evening. Hunter Green, 5.1, leading all WAR, all pitchers in WAR.
I did not know that.
Behind him is Paul Skeens at 3.8. He has a 1.4 better WAR than the guy in second place behind him in the NL.
That is crazy. Where's Sale from Atlanta?
3.7. He's in 4th.
Okay.
Well, I guess tied for 3rd with Ronaldo Lopez.
Okay. I knew he had to be up there. Wow, that's interesting. I did not know.
Hey, we got some Bearcat fans.
All right, I gotta take care of some stuff.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
That's okay. Ow. Obviously, Mrs. Vogel's had some Jack.
No, I have not. I had some Cincy seltzers.
Okay. Thank you. She was at the pool up the street here with 3 14-year-olds. So my guess is she's going insane.
Life comes
3 14-year-old boys, and she's in charge. Hey, mamas, your kids are safe here.
But yeah, getting back to Hunter Green, just again, the contract's going to pay off in dividends, I think, at this point. And you've got to figure out what you're doing with Ellie De La Cruz yesterday.
Yeah, no, I just stumbled as we're talking and bringing that up. I'm thinking, you know what? They may want to get out in front of this. They've got to be thinking that, and just the marketing opportunities with this guy are going to be endless.
Sure, endless. Absolutely. Yep. Other news for the Reds this week: Tucker Barnhart is officially a Cincinnati Red again. He's going to be reporting to AAA Louisville. He hasn't been here since I think 2021, if I'm not mistaken. And he's been here forever. I mean, I think he was he was like 10 years.
Drafted by the Reds, worked his way up. This was a dude, I think he was a 10th round pick. He had to prove himself at every level and then finally got to the majors. And I'm like, this guy will be lucky if he's in the major leagues for 2 months.
Yep, Arizona had DFA'd him. And the Reds pick him up. They don't have to worry about paying his contract. They could set a new contract. They awaited the time lapse on that.
And Tucker's a worker.
Other big news is the Reds. Yeah, I expect we'll see him before the end of the season, probably up here.
No doubt.
I'd be surprised if he wasn't up here.
I think so too.
The other big news: the Reds and the Braves have agreed to play a regular season game at Bristol Motor Speedway in 2025. Huh?
That's out of left field. I wonder how deep left field will be there, or right field. I wonder what kind of park they can put in that place.
I
guess there'll be plenty of room, actually, when you think of an infield at a NASCAR place.
Well,
although that's a small track.
Wouldn't it be like the old Polo Grounds where you have like a 600-foot center field wall?
It could be. Well, I guess they can construct whatever they want. I don't know.
Like the old Yankees. The old Yankees Polo Grounds.
But I will say this. I am glad the Reds are part of this because I'm glad baseball is doing some just goofy things like this.
Sure.
Because, first of all, that is huge Braves and Reds country down in that area. I mean, there's a lot of Reds country down in West Virginia and Kentucky down in that corner, and even some Tennessee. And then there's so much Braves support down there too in that area, probably more than Reds, but there's plenty of Reds country down that way. So this makes a lot of sense. It's something that's going to be a splash game where no matter how each team is doing in the standings, and I think based on this year, they'll both be doing at least respectable in the standings, that it's going to be an interesting deal. It's going to be a big deal. And as I sit here and talk about it and think this, maybe I want to go down there and sit in the top row of that bad boy and watch baseball players down there instead of race cars.
Well, every team has 81 home games. There's no reason that every team shouldn't be doing roughly 3 to 5 of these types of random ass games throughout the season. I think.
I agree. It makes, and of course they don't want to give up like ticket revenue, but as far as I'm concerned, the Reds could play a game at UC Stadium once a year and just make it a little cozy event, and you could sell tickets to that for how much?
Yeah, especially at those Wednesday day games that used to be the businessman special.
If they played a game there, I would go in a heartbeat. Like, first of all, you can razz someone from anywhere in the stands there. Right? It would be a ball.
I would love to see them doing different things like this. There's just, even if you're playing out of market and able to kind of spread your marketing and spread your brand, I think that's nothing but good for the game of baseball. You've made it so difficult to even watch a damn game if you live in market, and the markets don't even make sense at this point in time. They're so massive. For baseball to be a regional sport and the markets to be like the Reds market, I think goes all the way from like Columbus to Tennessee to damn near Illinois to West Virginia. It's so big, but it takes for
right. And why wouldn't the Reds play like a game a year up in Dayton or one in Louisville? You know what I'm saying? I mean, they got stadiums that are ready made. That would be so cool.
It'd be something. I'm with you though. I think they should be doing more things like this. It should be a cool event.
They got to do something.
The last team we want to touch on though, FC Cincinnati. There was New York City FC did themselves no favors in the match last night as they put out a tweet that said they didn't stand a chance, and that was before Cincinnati started scoring goals. It was 2-0 at that point in time. They tweet out they didn't stand a chance. Then they tweeted out Bucha's goal. Then they tweeted out Assad's goal. Then they tweeted out Kubo's goal. Then they tweeted out Santos' goal. And I'm surprised they didn't delete. They didn't stand a chance at that point in time. Just pretend it didn't exist. But
you gotta own it. You gotta own it. I mean, that was so dumb. Generally, yes. With 10 minutes to go or whatever it was in a soccer match, and you got a 2-0 lead, you're going to win. That was amazing. And I'll tell you what, Cincinnati's getting their mojo back a little bit, and I know it's this Leagues Cup thing and all that. They get back in the MLS play Saturday the 24th. But these backups, like these substitutes they have, and some of them are frontline, but it's just been I think they're getting it back together. I think they're getting it back together. We'll see. They had a couple hiccups there before they went into this break for the Leagues Cup and the International and the Olympics. But
I wonder if that's what the team needed, though. You had the hiccups, and now you got the backups getting some much needed playing time. Maybe that's what you needed to break up the monotony, break up the losing streak, and maybe this is exactly what you needed. I know that you and I have talked both on air and off air about how these breaks make very little sense and kind of
they drive you crazy.
They're embarrassing to know that the United States and their soccer league are maybe third, fourth best in the world. And, this is kind of the smack in the face that reminds you of that. But this was, again, maybe a much needed thing for this team.
Yeah, Cincinnati seems to be making the best of what they have right now. And I think they're going to be poised to finish pretty strong. So it's, plenty of soccer left, and they're doing very, very well. And I think we're going to be excited this fall again and see a little bit of a playoff run. If not, wouldn't that be nice to see a complete one?
I agree. Get both the plate and the cup.
Thank you.
That all said, I'm out of things to talk about tonight, unless you have anything high school sports related.
I got to go be a parent out here to 3 14-year-old boys and my wife, apparently. I got to be a parent to her now.
Well, that's going to wrap it up.
Wish me luck.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of George in the Jungle, again presented by Remington Tavern. You can find them at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. You can find them on Instagram at RemyTavCincy or follow them on Facebook. But for George Vogel, I'm Aaron Smith. We'll be back here next Tuesday, 9 p.m. to talk all things Cincinnati sports. We'll see you then.